Welcome back to Morning Express. Now at 3 p.m. today, Kenyans will know their share in the 2.6 trillion shilling budget that will be read out by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich in Parliament. All eyes will also be on President Uhuru Kenyatta as this stands as the Jubilee administration's last chance to deliver on key election promises that were made that are yet to be fulfilled. What we do know right now from the numbers, 2.6 trillion shillings, is that Kenyans will be expected to raise 1.7 trillion from their taxes. This is more than twice what Kenyans had to pay in taxes in 2013 to meet the budgetary expectations. What do Kenyans think of this very ambitious budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year? Well, let's cross over to Michael Gitonga, who is in the city center, as well as Abby Agina, just to give us some more insight on what Kenyans think and expect from the budget this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And just like you've put it, it is the headlines of the Standard newspaper this morning inside Uhuru's last budget. And of course, you've already highlighted that. And on the Standard, you've got some good details on what that is. But I'd like to, first of all, just give a scope, or rather give Abby the opportunity to give us a scope and the history of the budget and some of the figures that we are looking at. Nowadays, we talk in trillions in this country and what that means. Abby, maybe just to paint a picture of where we are coming from in terms of the history of the budget. This year it is different, not just because of the amount, but the fact that it's also in March as opposed to June. Maybe you can tell us the effect that has on the financial year and really what we should be looking forward to before we banter on that.
Well, many thanks, Mike. It's going to be an interesting budget this year. For the fact that, first of all, it's being done in the month of March. Ideally, it used to be done in June. And, of course, this captures the budget financial year that the government has, where the money is released in July to cover till the next year, that being June. So it's not really a big concern that we are doing the budget in March. It's just because of the elections. But next year, we'll go back to the June calendar cycle. So really, this is just to try and avoid a lacuna in terms of money being released and the budget policy statement being tabled before Parliament. So that's really the gist of it. But to the question around the history of the budget, well, if I'm to look back, say 5 years from now, our budget has grown nearly 4 times. Kenya used to have a budget of 960 billion. That is the time when we had President Mwai Kibaki, retired president actually. So if you look at the trends, it shows us a government that has been having an insatiable appetite to spend. This technically means that if you're looking at the government as an organization, it really connects to an organization that wants to grow. So they need more money to do more things. That's just the simplistic way to look at it. But needing more money means either you tax the population more or you borrow heavily outside. So we've also seen a growing trend in the debt that the country is taking up. Right now, our debt is standing at 3.2 trillion shillings since President Kenyatta took over. But there's good debt and bad debt. So the bigger question has been, have we been using our debt in the right manner that can actually cause a trickle-down effect to the common man, where people can get jobs, companies come to set up. That's one of the biggest challenges that we've had. We've not been quite able to ensure that we have people manufacturing to grow. Right now, unemployment is still a big issue, but the bigger concern right now is how do we fund our budget? Now, our budget is 2.62 trillion shillings, Mike. And of course, the taxman can only collect to a certain level. That is about 900 billion. So by the fact that we've seen the budget hit 2.6, the taxman has to collect an additional 300 billion shillings to make it at about 1.1 trillion, which means you and me and the rest of us here either will get to be taxed more on our current taxes, or they'll have to borrow heavily, Mike. So that's just a snapshot of some of the key highlights around the budget. Of course, there's a lot of anticipation that this year new taxes won't be introduced because it's an election year. The government is trying to play a very delicate balancing act, Mike.
Maybe let me come to you, Eric. And you've had Abby highlight, the amount of monies that we're talking about and the differences between the different budgets. I don't know what you do for a profession, but over the years, what has been the effect of this soaring debt that Kenya has in terms of your shopping basket? When you go into a supermarket and you buy, what has been your experience?
I think what I would say is just take a simple example, Mike. When you go to the supermarket and you have 1,000 shillings, a few years ago, I mean, your biceps would show that you have actually purchased something. These days, just load your phone with credit and attempt to buy 2 kilograms of sugar or flour, and that's it. Your 1,000 shillings doesn't give you as much mileage as it used to before. So that is probably what I would say one of my concerns, because, it means it hits at your pocket. And, the salary versus the inflation race is normally quite impaired. So my concern is, what is the government going to do about this? I'm hoping the budget will have, an accommodation for that. And an interesting thing I've had is that the government has two options to meet the deficit. Either me and fellow Kenyans are taxed, or we go for debt. Will the Kenyans accept? Or will we pick our empty sufurias and come and make noise at parliament? And if we are borrowing the debt, what's the long-term effect in terms of after the leadership or after future generations? These are things that I'm now beginning to think of now that I'm hearing we're talking about trillions. That's a ridiculous sum amount of money. It's like we're spending 3/4 above our salary, if I can speak on behalf of the government, which is also a concern. I'm definitely sure I'd want to hear what's happening and what will be taxed,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Abby, I'll come to you on that question. What is the long-term effect? And maybe just to paint a picture of how much 1 trillion shillings is. I think somebody had once said you can lay, is it 1,000 notes from here to Mombasa, I think, one after the other, just to show you how much a trillion is. That is a lot of money. But I'll come to that in just a bit in terms of what is the long-term effect. But I know, Evelyn, you're in business, and the government has consistently told us, look, some of these investments we're making now may not be felt immediately. For instance, we can talk about the SGR. We can talk about the roads opening up, the business sector. But maybe, is that, do you think, a valid argument for the amount of money we're borrowing so that the effect will probably be felt later on?
I think yes, for such kind of heavy infrastructure developments, the effect will be met long term. For me, it's will I see it making sense for my business so that I can actually wait and say, okay, so the government is doing this for me. As a business person, I will see the results in maybe 5-10 years. So the question is, as Abby said, we have so much debt. Is it good debt? Is it bad debt? And if it is good debt, what is the repayment term? Because I want to see if the SGR is going to help me, and I have a piece of land somewhere in Lolongo. I can stop staying in Nairobi, and I know if I go build my house in Lolongo, I can access the CBD in record time. So it is helping me manage my life at a long term. I'm managing my time on a more long term. So I can actually encourage those kind of investments. So I would actually want to know the money that they're borrowing, we are actually sinking in debt. And my worst fear is my children will actually be paying this debt as young as they are. So is it good debt or is it bad debt? Yeah.
And I won't ask how old you are, but you probably would benefit from two areas that the government had given out money: women and youth. And you're in business. Again, I say I won't ask, but I'm just basing on what I see. But anyway, have you managed to tap into that? Because maybe that would also help spur your business.
Yes. I have been able to tap into the women, the 30% of allocation to the women. It's good because that space has enabled me to access international markets, yes, for my business. And so what is there is that the money that women are being given, I'm able to access it through certain networks, which is a good thing because I don't now need to be with the 70%, because with the kind of business I am in, it is very male infiltrated. So the 30% actually really works for me. Again, then I am in the bracket of youth, so I have
Advantage.
Yes.
All right, and in case you're joining us now, we are actually bringing you word on the street of the budget. And in case you need to buy a newspaper, I'll encourage you to come and buy from this stand right between Banda Street and Koinange Street, where Phyllis has been very kind with her space. She has allowed us to use this space basically to continue with the show. Abby, a pertinent question asked by Eric, and that is the long-term effect of the amount of money that we have borrowed.
So, Mike, the debt issue, um, right now, to do the math, every kid being born is going to pay 90,000 shillings. So really, if you look at the bigger issue right now is the debt we are taking on, it has concessional periods spanning to 30 years, some 20 years, and it is foreign denominated. What do I mean by this? We've borrowed debt that is in another currency. And if you borrow debt in another currency, if there are any changes in terms of the exchange rate, definitely we'll be paying more. If, say, the dollar strengthens against the shilling, we'll be paying more. That's the long-term effect. The other issue is if we default on our debt, it has serious consequences. We might get our credit rating as a country downgraded, and this makes us an unattractive country to borrow or investors to give us money. So that's one of the bigger issues, Mike. And the other thing with this year's budget is just look at our wage bill. We are spending 627 billion shillings to pay people in Parliament, Senate, MCAs, and I mean, this is a representation of 2% of the population, but they are gobbling up nearly a third of our budget against a bigger population where if we are able to clamp down on our wage bill and maybe say cut it by a half, this would mean a big relief in terms of tax collection, because if that money can be channeled to other projects, it will be able to help the government achieve more if we're able to reduce our wage bill, Mike.
All right. Another maybe you could help us understand, Abby, is when we talk about this debt that the country has taken and the fact that our children, Evelyn alluded to that, our children are going to be paying that debt. Break it down for me to fully understand, how am I paying that debt? Because when I wake up every morning, go to work, I get my pay slip, I don't see anywhere written debt, being paid. So how is it when we talk about this debt being paid by our children over the long term? How does that work?
So to just break it down further, Mike, right now you pay taxes. You pay different types of taxes. That is income tax. You also pay value-added tax, which the government collects as revenue. And the revenue they collect, they now refinance that debt that they had taken. So you won't see it anywhere in your pay slip, or you won't get a call from KRA being told you need to chip in on this and that. Oh, yeah. So really, there isn't any connection to that per se. But if the government is meeting this debt, they will have to ensure that as you and me and the rest of us continue with our day-to-day activities, they, on their part, are able to meet the debt in terms of paying it without any, should I say, failure. So there isn't any specific item you'll see on your payslip, but just look at the tax you pay. That gives you a better picture of the debt situation in the country, Mike.
All right, let's now move to expectations and possibly Eric, as Mwananchi, going about your business, your everyday dealings. We've seen this budget read over and over again, and it becomes a big thing. I remember from back in the day when you'd have the minister holding that briefcase, which was carrying the very important documents that he was going to read. But do you really, from the Mwananchi perspective, fully understand what it is that he reads in that budget? We know it is important because, we highlight it and all that. But does it really percolate down to the Mwananchi to feel that this is exactly what it means to me?
Mike, first of all, I'm very glad you asked me this question after Abby has educated me, so I can give an informed, I can give an informed answer. I will honestly tell you that, just like you said, from back in the day, our main concern has been let the government not touch unga, let the government not touch sugar, let the government not touch the things that, or rather, the ingredients that make up the meals that we eat. Let it not affect the fuel because we need to get to work, and we also need to be able to have more salary than more month, basically. So I'll say Abby today has done a good job of educating a common man like me when it comes to the nitty-gritties of the budget. I now understand these things. But before, all I wanted to hear was, and we are not going to tax flour, and I'm just there saying hallelujah, amen. And you know, fuel has gone down by 2 shillings. Good, so bus fare goes down. I know now I can negotiate with my salary. But beginning to understand that, my goodness, 90,000, I don't have a child right now. Meaning, the minute I decide to, they already come in with a loan they need to pay of 90,000 shillings. It's just opened up my mind to, you know, it's about time we actually, you know, paid attention to what he said. And I don't know if it's possible. We need to take the government to task about this thing. Is the borrowing warranted? And if we're asking the government if the borrowing is warranted, then are we willing as Kenyans to accept taxation on our end? The Rwandan president for 11 months, and on the 12th month, willingly, if you want, give your salary to the government so that they pay their debt. Is that kind of a, I mean, would that be a solution that would work here? I mean, I'm now beginning to think can we reduce the spending and then do something more? Now that I understand the implication of that suitcase on my day-to-day life, on my future business, on my finance, on my investments and all these things, it's just opened up my mind to so many things that I now need to consider. The common mwananchi needs to be told. It's not just about the packet of unga being below 100 shillings or being 50 shillings. It's looking at it short term and long term. So we have a healthy nation. Yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, Abby, and I'll come to you, Evelyn, on the effect that it has on business, on your day-to-day running, and possibly shillings and cents. But Abby, two things. If you talk to the Mwananchi, and we're going to do that not too long from now to just find out what their concerns are. And I remember we did this even on Tuesday. It is the basic commodities, unga. He has mentioned fuel, which sometimes is even a bit far for some. It is sugar. It is just those things that you use every day. How practical is it? Because all of them will tell you the same thing. Tunataka bei ya unga ishuke. How practical is it for that bei ya unga to ever shuka, given that even when fuel barrel prices come down, wherever we get our petrol from, rare is the time that we feel that effect on the pump. How practical is it for prices to come down?
Mike, it's very practical. This morning as I was coming to town, Burundi has actually, the Burundi government has removed tax on all imported basic commodities. So this is to basically spur more people to be able to afford the various essentials, that being cooking fat, wheat flour, maize flour. It has happened just across the borders. But for Kenya, the bigger issue is if we are looking at reducing the tax on items like maize, items like cooking fat, we had been promised that we will have the Galana Kulalu Food Security Project that was to give us, it would actually boost food security in the country. This is yet to fully be implemented. So from a production point of view, if we're able to increase our production, the government will be able to require less taxes. That's one of the things. But the practicality of it is neither here nor there, because if you look at what the minister will be tabling before Parliament this afternoon, he will try to ensure that consumables are not heavily taxed, especially now that Kenyans are going through the drought. There's also the strikes. Inflation is at 9%. So these are the teething problems that have continued to characterize the economy. So I can't give you a straightforward answer that the packet of unga will go down by this time round, but it's a question of the production side of things, because that's the main link to this conversation. If you're able to, for example, say, reduce duty of agricultural commodities, not commodities, but agricultural equipment, this would mean your input costs as a farmer would go down. If you have a dairy farm and you pay a lot of tax on animal feed, you'll pass it on to the consumer at the end of the day. So it can be done if specific areas in the value chain are factored in and they get some tax exemptions, because eventually it gets back to us as the consumers, and we have to pay dearly for the high cost of putting something at the end of the chain. And I know Eve would agree with me on that.
All right, and maybe we'll just do this practically. Let me just find Phyllis. Just come. Let me talk to Phyllis. Phyllis is our host today, and she's been very kind to. Maybe I don't know if the camera can get you from there. And I do apologize for the shaky shots, because this is really on the go. Phyllis, asante sana kwanza kwa kuturuhusu kutumia ofisi yako kufanya kazi yetu. Tumeshukuru sana. You've been very kind. Sasa niambie matarajio yako ya bajeti.
Natarajia itakuwa nzuri na tutaenjoy budget.
Okay. Nini ambacho ungependa kuona labda bei yake ikibadilika?
Sana sana juu ya chakula. Hiyo ikibadilika tutakuwa sawa.
Na sasa kama Mkenya ambaye anafanya biashara kila siku, unaamka, nilifika hapa kabla saa 11 hivi na nusu na tayari ulikuwa umeanza kazi. Unaona kama biashara yako inaendeleaje?
Biashara inaendelea vizuri. Although siku hizi imekuwa ngumu sana, si kiasi.
Na ni nini ambayo imefanya ikuwe ngumu? Ni watu hawanunui bidhaa ama namna gani?
Wananunua lakini sio sana.
Okay. Sawa sawa, asante sana Phyllis. That's Phyllis, our host here. I'll just see whether I can get a few other people who can help us out and just find out what their expectation is on the budget. And just a quick reminder, it's going to be read, and I know right now on your screens you can see the countdown of the budget as number of hours that we're expecting to have the budget read. And I'll be going back to the panel that we have in just a bit. I'm just trying to see whether we can get a Kenyan or two. And there's a gentleman here who's looking star-studded. I think he's just come off a motorbike. And karibu ndugu yangu. Unaitwa kwa majina tafadhali?
Kwa majina naitwa Jojo Mondi.
Jojo Mondi. Leo unajua ya kwamba bajeti inasoma?
Naam, nafahamu vizuri. Okay. Na mimi kama kijana, ama unajua sasa mimi niko wa kundi ya vijana. Sana ningeomba tu serikali kwa hii bajeti, tafadhali serikali washughulikie sana vijana. Juu ukiangalia mambo nyingi wanalenga sana wenye wako na biashara kubwa. Unaona? Lakini sasa sisi vijana tuwajijenga. So hakuna venye utapandisha kitu ya bei kidogo inaweza faidisha mimi. Because we normally say in order to reach kwenye wakubwa wetu wamefika, mimi kama kijana njia inaweza tumia njia sahihi ni kutake a step. Okay. Na ni ile step ya chini kabisa. Kwa hivyo ningeomba serikali iangalie sana vijana sana hii mambo ya vitu tudogo tunajijenga. Kama mimi ni rider.
Wewe unafanya kazi ya bodaboda ama rider?
Okay, pana sifanyi kazi ya bodaboda, lakini niko na pikipiki yangu ya kujibeba. Okay. Lakini ile tu najaribu kulenga economy. Okay. Unajua huku Kenya nauli ya fare imekuwa juu sana.
Okay. Sawa, asante sana, nimeshukuru. Wacha pia niongee na ndugu yangu hapa kwa majina tafadhali.
Majina ni Peter Kamau na mimi ni mfanyi biashara wa tauni hii upande wa transport. Ningeomba serikali kwa hii budget watuangushie mafuta iko juu sana. Hatupati faida na hatuwezi kuongeza bei ya nauli. Kwa hivyo watuangalie. Tena maisha imekuwa ngumu kwa mwananchi wa kawaida. Hasa kwa chakula, mahali kama unga, sukari, iko juu sana. Mwananchi wa kawaida, kuna wengine hata wanalala njaa sababu hawana nia. Na tena tungeomba hata wanasiasa wetu waangalie wananchi ambaye watawapatia kura. Kwa hivyo ningeomba waache maneno ya siasa hii mingi bila usaidizi, sababu wananchi wanaumia.
Na kwa matarajio yako, kulingana na vile umeona mambo yakiendelea katika hii nchi, nini ambayo unatarajia katika bajeti inaweza kufaidi wewe kama mwananchi ambaye anafanya biashara?
Natarajia, kwa kuwa naona kama watatuangushia mafuta, sababu mafuta ndio kiini ya mambo yote. Sababu mafuta ikipanda hata chakula upanda sana. Sasa unga iko juu sana, kama unga imefika 150, kuna mwananchi wa kawaida hawezi kupata hiyo pesa ya kununua hiyo unga. Kwa hivyo ningetarajia budget iangushe chakula kwanza na iangushe mafuta, ndio watu wasaidike. Sababu hata kwa nauli, watu wengine hawana nauli ya kwenda, wengi wanasafiri kwa miguu. Tuko na shida.
Asante sana, nimeshukuru sana na uwe na siku njema, na tutatarajia bajeti endelee vivyo hivyo. Tuko katika mjini Nairobi na tunahoji wananchi matarajio yao ya bajeti. Haya, hapa niko na ndugu yangu. What's your name, sir?
My name is Kevin Mugendi.
Kevin Mugendi, you're on your way to work?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
I work in a bank. Yeah.
Okay. So your expectations of the budget today?
We are expecting to see some tax cuts. Yeah, the prices of food is quite high. Of course, you know that inflation is quite high. So we are expecting to see a change in that. We lose a lot of money through corruption, that is obvious. So going forward, I also hope that you are going to elect good leaders. Yeah.
Okay, now for somebody who's working in the banking sector, I don't know how long you've worked in the banking sector.
This is my second year.
This is your second year. Have you seen any change in terms of how much revenue comes in? Maybe because business is not doing very well as a country?
Yeah, that's true. Especially after capping. Of course, you know that lending to the private sector has come a bit down, and yeah, and as a result, the banking, the income for the bank has come down as well. Yeah, so we have seen that. Even if you look at the newspapers, the banks are publishing their financial reports, and you will see that income has come down significantly. Okay. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. You have a wonderful day and wish you all the best. And we're looking forward to a wonderful budget. Pia niko na madam hapa. Madam, habari asubuhi. What's your name?
My name is Lucy.
Okay, Lucy, we have the budget reading which is going to be happening in less than 8 hours as we speak. What are you expecting from the budget today?
The reduction on taxes, and that one will also touch on the cost of the foodstuffs, and they should also look on corruption. Yes.
Do you think corruption affects our economy in any way?
Yeah, it does.
How do you think it affects?
It affects us on every area of our economy. When corruption is there, and it will affect on our ways of life, because it makes the cost of living to go high.
And then now, in terms of the budget, which has been read severally for many years, what is it that you'd like to see different this year?
On taxes, the reduction on taxes, yes.
Are you currently employed?
Yes.
Okay, and I guess the biggest chunk that you feel goes unfairly out of your salary is what, the taxes?
Not unfair. If I'm taxed and then the taxes are used on the property, I wouldn't mind. But when I'm paying the taxes and then if the corruption issue, it's what affects me.
Okay, so your issue...
If my taxes are used well, I wouldn't mind. Yes.
Do you think they've been used well, given that now we're talking about the SGR, we're talking about road networks being open, infrastructure?
If they are used well, more can be done, more than the SGR and everything else. More in education, more can be done if the taxes are used well. But I don't think the taxes are used well.
Okay. All right, so your issue is not necessarily the amount of money that you're taxed, but the fact that the tax is not being used.
Yes. That's my concern. Let them tax me, but let them use the taxes well to the lowest paid person so that everybody would benefit on their medical issues. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. We wish you a wonderful day. And we're hoping that the budget is going to favor you. And hopefully those taxes will be dealt with or utilized well. Thank you very much. All right, this is Morning Express, and we're coming to you from the streets of Nairobi. Just a reminder that today is the day that the budget is going to be read. And I do have a panel that is seated here, which we've just constructed as we're going along, which we're going to be talking to in just a bit. We'll take a short break, but we'll be right back and highlight on the budget. Hopefully, we'll also get a few more people from the streets who can just tell us what their expectations are of the budget. So, Michelle, we'll take a short break and come back to you. Then we'll come back.
All right, thank you, Michael, and very interesting to hear what Kenyans are expecting from the budget today. A very interesting analysis as well from our business reporter, Abby Agina. And like Michael mentioned, just about 7 hours and 20 minutes to the reading of the budget, the final budget for the Jubilee administration for this first term in office. And Kenyans will be expecting a lot from this proposed 2.6 trillion shilling budget. With what many Kenyans on the streets have been saying, food prices now are at an all-time high. The country is reeling from a debt of about 3.6 trillion shillings. And we also have a number of pre-election promises that are yet to be fully implemented. And as the budget is read, Kenyans will also be waiting to hear what President Uhuru Kenyatta will use this platform for. Of course, it will be a platform for him to convince Kenyans that they indeed should re-elect him for a second term. It will also offer him a platform to be able to deliver on some of the key pledges that he made to Kenyans that he is yet to deliver. But we did ask you today whether you are expecting anything new from the budget. That was our question of the day this morning. And just to sample a few comments here, we have Lydia Akela who says, yes, at this rate of inflation, the rate of inflation will kill us. Let it be cut. And then at Roy Odhiambo says, hell no, it will not be a surprise to hear an escalation in every product. That is our question of the day. Do you expect anything new from the budget reading today? Like I mentioned, many Kenyans really saying that they want a reduction in taxes and a reduction in the cost of food. And before we get back to Michael Gitonga on the street, just a few things that we will be talking about, and even they can ask Kenyans on the street. Remember, the most recent State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta, he did outline that the ballooning public wage bill needs to be reduced. And one of the ways that he proposed this to be done is by a reduction of salaries and allowances for members of parliament. But the realities of an election year are also playing out in the budget. Remember, the president still needs the support of lawmakers for him to be re-elected into office. And as it stands, the government has been forced to allocate 100 billion shillings that has been put for salary increases for the civil service. And the government will also be forced to bow to legislators and give the 40.2 billion shillings send-off for legislators that they have been asking for. And this is for the period between August and March, which they say that they were meant to be paid for those 8 months. There is also a scare that members of the county assembly may also push for a send-off package. So really issues that need to be addressed, and Kenyans will be waiting to see what President Uhuru Kenyatta will be doing about that. So let's go back to the streets and listen in to what Michael Gitonga and Abby Agina have from the streets this morning.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And yes, we've talked to a few passers-by, literally just to find out what their expectations are. But something that comes out in basically in all of them is the fact that the price of food, basic commodities, needs to go down. Nobody has talked about fashion. Nobody has talked about cars. It's basically fuel and food. But Abby, maybe for us to have a clearer picture, we did have the budget last year. What were the wins and gains, and what should we expect in reflection now to today?
Well, Mike, I think by the fact you talked to the people on the streets, they represent what many Kenyans would like to see this year. Maize flour prices, cost of fuel. But looking back to last year, some of the big issues that came out in the budget, some of the big winners were LPG users. The government did remove VAT on LPG. Say if you are buying a 13 kg cylinder, which used to be about 2,300, now it's at close to 1,900. So you save like 500 shillings. And this has seen a number of people move away from using kerosene and charcoal. Some have bought the 6 kg one and they're using it. So that was one of the big achievements in last year's budget. The other one was, of course, on the ladies didn't have a good year last year. Cosmetics were hard hit. The tax was increased. We also did see landlords being targeted last year, where they will be paying rental income tax. And this, to a great extent, is geared towards seeing people in the real estate business being taxed. So this year, I think it will be a delicate balancing act for the CS, looking at some of the other thriving sectors, such as the gambling business, which ideally generates a lot of revenue with the love for football among Kenyans and the love for sports. I mean, it's an area that the CS, I know, is really keen on taxing this year. I think the other one, of course, is the usual one, that is the alcoholics and beverages, which over the years has been growing in terms of consumption, but the taxes haven't been growing equally. So these are goods that economists refer to as the Veblen goods, things that you'll still use even if the tax hits whichever amount. So I'm thinking those are the areas he's keen on this time round, but I don't know what other expectations our colleagues do have.
Okay. And maybe I'll come to Evelyn, and this is now in regards to business, and apologies on cosmetics, although I can see you're mostly natural. But anyway, that I know can be a bit tricky. But yes, now coming back to business, and maybe the effect that you've seen on some of those gains that Abby has talked about, LPG, gas, but also let's not forget the other aspect, because sometimes we're very bourgeois, as it were, and talk about business. But tell me about your experience as a mother, as you know, somebody, your experience at home.
I think Eric had mentioned just a few minutes ago before you went to the streets. Like when you go to the supermarket nowadays, actually with 1,000 bob, as a mother, I would come out of the supermarket with maybe a diaper and wipes. Those are just 2 items. Not long ago, I would actually shop more than what I can shop right now. So for me, I would want to see more benefit for my money, because if you actually listen to more people, they don't mind being taxed, as the lady on the street was saying, but they want to see where's their money going. Because I'm a mother who works really, really hard, but I am, as much as I'm gaining, I am just giving it away. I am not saving. I am not. It's coming in, it's coming out as fast as it is going. So, I think the CS has a very delicate balance, as he said, to show us how, as we are getting into debt, how are we gaining from it? And as I was telling him just before we took a break, in business, sometimes we feel like I'm very adamant to give people business, because if he's not being paid by a certain government organization that he's doing a tender for, he doesn't pay me, then I don't end up paying my workers. And it becomes like a trickle effect that now people become very disgruntled because they're not seeing money. We are working so hard, but we are not seeing the fruits of our hard work. So it's really a delicate balance. As a business person, I would really want to know how the interest rates are going to come down, so that I want to see how the government is going to incentivize me to take up facilities. Right now, you are looking for other avenues to do business, which is not taking up loans, which is not good, because the economy needs to grow as we are taking loans. Yeah.
All right, Eric, an interesting aspect, and I'd like to hear what your take is. One of the ladies we spoke to, she said she really does not mind being taxed. It's not the amount that matters to her, but the fact that the taxes are not being utilized and used well. First of all, do you mind being taxed? Do you think our taxes are too high? Or do you have the same notion whereby you don't mind how much we're being taxed, but at least if our taxes were working?
That's an interesting question, Mike. I think this is how I answer your question. I don't think I mind being taxed, but I'd like it not to be a tax that becomes disabling to me, so that I get value for my money. And I say this now with the knowledge that my unborn child will not bear the tax. I believe that as a Kenyan is being responsible and paying the taxes. And just like she said, she doesn't mind. It's a very interesting thing that happens. And the thing that gets to most Kenyans is that our taxes are not being properly utilized. I mean, 235 million being carried in Mkokoteni. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? It is high time that money is used for what is meant, for what it is meant for, so that we go forward. You get? I believe we have the potential of becoming greater than the country down south, greater than any country in Africa, actually, because we have the greatest minds here. We have an economy that is 24 hours, is running. Kenyans are hardworking. Just like you said, by 5:30 in the morning, she was here selling the newspapers. That's the kind of people that are behind the government. If you're to harness this resource, utilize their taxes properly, pay our debts, would be very far. There wouldn't be, all this complaint about, unga. And it's an interesting thing that most of the opinion on the street is about consumer goods. You get? Meaning we are concerned with our stomach. No one ever talks about, I'm very enlightened to hear about Evelyn's concern about business. The government seems to be one of our biggest employers in terms of tenders and whatnot, but it seems also they don't pay. So why don't they pay? Can we look into that? Isn't it? Another thing is that Abby has mentioned. There are certain taxable areas that you can tax, and however much you add tax onto them, it will not affect its consumption. Why not play a balancing act where reduce the consumer goods, ease up on the business, and then take that 1%, and then that 2%, send it over to these goods. We love football, we love sports. Add 1 or 2% because you understand, come rain, come sunshine, we'll still accept tax there. Yeah? Go that way. Alcohol and beverages. People take alcohol and beverages whether it rains or it shines. Can we add another 1% there and then reduce a 1% somewhere? He mentioned the LPG tax. That I'm sure, I'm not, in my little understanding, I think we use it in hospitals, we use it in restaurants, we use it in various other places, to do, if you're cooking, you use LPG gas, which means it reduces, he mentioned 500 shilling on the 13 kilogram. That 500 shillings goes on to do something else, enables you to pay your employees. If you look at the long-term effect of such taxes, it actually does good for the morale of the country. We would be very willing to accept, those kinds of taxes and push the government, be able to go behind the government in achieving their tax goals or their budget goals, actually. Because basically what we want is, let's meet our budget without having to borrow and tax on consumer goods or, the mwananchi feeling, no, you've pushed us to the corner.
Abby, let's talk solutions. You've done a very good job of painting the picture and letting us know that if you're pregnant right now, 90K, wekelea kwa meza. That's what you owe the gava. Or rather, you owe in terms of debt, which is really scary, to be very honest. But what's the way out of this? Is this something that can be reversed? Is it something that there can be a solution? Or is that our fate right now? And the only thing that can happen is for that debt to go up.
Interesting question, Mike, and I'll attempt to answer it. It's a really wide question. So if I was to get into the mind of the CS, that is CS Rotich, right now, a few percentage of Kenyans who are employed are paying taxes. There's a report that was released by the Institute of Economic Affairs, and it shows that the middle class in Kenya actually the middle class in Kenya are 2.5 million. And the 2.5 million of the middle class, these are people earning 50,000 to 120,000. They are the biggest taxpayers because it's very easy for KRA. They just approach your company gives out your details, and voila, your tax is cut from your salary. So that's the people who are in the middle class. 2.5 million. Another 7.5 million are in the informal sector. If you go down to Juakali guys right now, someone selling those sandukus or the suitcases for guys in high school. these are guys making over 200K per month. They are not being taxed on their income, but they are being taxed on the materials that they are using. So this is a very a nice area that the government can consider going into. Of course, it will be difficult because most of these guys are not captured in the database, or be it KRA cannot really trace them easily, because tax is a question of you going to the authorities saying, hey, I want to get a PIN number. After that, you get into the cycle of paying taxes. So I'm looking at if the government is able to look keenly and say, if we want to grow our tax collection, what do we need to do? Make tax collection more transparent. Make the government be accountable, because if I'm paying taxes, if I'm, say, in the import business, there's a lot of guys doing the importation of goods and they circumvent the system, and tax avoidance is a big challenge, because someone is saying, I'm importing, let's say, a Range Rover worth 15 million or 10 or 12 million, but the duty is gonna hit like 2.5 million. So if I can bypass my way and talk to someone in KRA and at the port, I give them 500K, I won't pay that tax, and government misses out on that tax. So why can't we make tax more transparent? And like one of the Kenyans said, that we need accountability. Can KRA be giving us a scorecard that out of all the taxes we've collected, this is what it went to do, and this was the balance? I believe Kenyans would be like, oh, now I see, I can pay my taxes. The other thing is, can we have a tax that is user-friendly? Right now, income tax is 30%, what guys are paying. So if you're earning 100K, 30K is going to government. I mean, can we have the tax bracket be reduced? If you are earning 50K and below, can you pay a certain amount? You shouldn't be put to pay the 30%. So I really feel there's need to review the Income Tax Act, because this is an area that the government, if it revises it, it can change the perception of Kenyans. And of course, it will make more people want to pay taxes.
Talking about taxes and them translating to the kind of services that we get, maybe your experience, Evelyn, in terms of whether you feel your taxes are well utilized.
No, my taxes are not well utilized.
Why no? What is it that you'd expect them to have done that possibly they've not done?
At least give me leverage on the fact that if I'm consuming a certain product frequently, give it to me at a lesser price. And I'll give an example of how Facebook has brought cheaper internet, that as a business person, I'll think, I don't need then to go to another ISP who's charging me more. I will use an international, so this is an international company. I would want to brand Kenya by using Safaricom, but the prices are not favorable. You understand? So I would want to see my tax generating, giving me more value. And that I don't see it giving me more value, because I will spend more money on fuel. I will spend more money on food. Because the other day I was just looking at a receipt from a restaurant, and it had so much levy. And I kept wondering, why is this food so expensive? Because of the labor costs, because of the levies. And for me, I keep feeling that we are giving all this money out and I'm not getting the benefit for it. So the government has to actually really, really convince me that I am paying the money and they're giving me benefit for it. And also to know how they are using innovation to cut their costs down. Because if you look at how government and parliament operates, how are they using technology to cut down on, say, the printers? Are they innovating their processes in the sense that what they're going to tell us right now, are they going to upload it to a website? Because if the Facebook internet is going to go to Mashinani, then the person, my mother who is in Mwingi, is able to access the budget that is being read from her phone. She has a smartphone, so she doesn't need to start looking for gazettes and then tomorrow it is in the butchery wrapping meat. Because, I mean, that is print, it is paper, it is labor intensive. Yes, so they need to cut down on some of these things. They have to actually start leading by example, so that when they're telling us to embrace some of these things, we actually then support them.
Okay, Eric, maybe just your closing comments regarding now the budget and your expectation.
I would say, one, I want our taxes to be used responsibly. As a Kenyan, and I know I speak for millions of people, I'm sick and tired of scandals. One individual disappearing with millions and millions of shillings. Can we have accountability in all offices of the government? And just like Evelyn said, I mean, what is the government doing with the current technological advance to get ahead, to lower spending? Is it possible for us to achieve the goals we've set for in our budgets and internally look at ways of meeting it without necessarily incurring debt? Can I pay taxes and be proud of it? Can I pay taxes and at the end I see we paid taxes, our taxes were able to do A, B, C, D, and therefore we had a 30-year plan to pay an international debt, but we reduced it to 15. I mean, we will be interested in hearing such reports from the government. I mean, let not the budget be shrouded in simply bei ya unga iende chini. Can it be more informative? In the business sector, can we understand our contribution does this? It gives a oneness to the country when we understand that our taxes are being used properly, our taxes are accountable, and our taxes are also bearable because we have day-to-day lives to run. We have issues that arise that we need to take care of. So whatever we work hard for and we give out as taxes willingly, let there be accountability and let them use it properly. You know, and that would be the sentiments I would echo. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And well, I think we'll wind up. And just before we hand over back to Michelle Ngele in the studio, just to read a few of the comments that are coming via Twitter. And we have Wesh who says, we can't keep on borrowing monies which ain't helping us. It's a bondage. We also have, let me see, we have Stephen Wambua who says there is nothing good to expect from the budget. With the current rate of inflation, only Jesus will help us. And let me read one more. This is from Lydia Akelo who says, yes, at this rate of inflation will kill us. Let it be cut. So this is where we're going to hand over back now to you in the studio, Michelle. And that's basically what we have as a word on the street. But also, just before handing over back to you, as you can see, Koinange Street, we've got quite a bit of traffic. It is mounting up now. I can also see Kenyatta Avenue is flowing. GPO bus station seems to be busy, but it is all flowing. Michelle Ngele, over to you.
All right, thank you, Michael. That is the word on the street ahead of the budget statement by Treasury CS Henry Rotich in Parliament later this afternoon. We do have that countdown on the bottom left of your screen, just 7 hours to the reading of that budget. Kenyans will be eager to hear how the government will plan to address the issues, considering that they will be expected to raise 1.7 trillion shillings in this current financial year, which is more than double what Kenyans raised in the 2013-2014 fiscal year. This is a story that we will be keeping tabs on here on Morning Express. We take a short break now, but we've also come to a close on the show. For those watching us on KTN Home, Life and Style is coming up next, but Morning Express continues right here on KTN News. We'll be back with our top stories this morning.